What's up guys, this is my crossover. I'm back with another episode of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Sage of Six Paths part 15. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 24. Remembering the past, it was a peaceful morning for the residents of a particular martial arts dojo, as another day dawned brightly, allowing everyone to enjoy life as it is. Ah, nearly everyone. Come on, Kenichi. Another 30 minutes of squatting and keeping your upper body straight. The disciple of Ryozanapku groaned with tears as his spread-out arms trembled, squatting with every inch of his body screaming and burning with anguish. A dark, hefty statue crushed his upper chest, while two smaller ones hugged his two legs, and two boiling cups hung on his head, threatening to burn him if he lost even the slightest balance. Akisame, the Jujitsu instructor in front of him, was continuously coming up with new ways to make each training session harder and tougher than the last. "Help me!" Kenichi cried in vain because no one rushed to his aid, neither Mew, Rhea, Naruto, nor his other masters. Speaking of his other teachers, they were seated on the dojo building's outer porch, each waiting their time to train their number one disciple. "Man, I hate waiting for my turn," Sakari grumbled as he sipped his beer. Kensai gave the karate master a blank stare. "Your turn will begin in a few minutes, but I will have to wait another hour and a half." "No fair for Apachai. I have to wait for 2 hours," Appa, the Muay Thai titan said, a melancholy cloud over his head, Shigur sitting next to him, trying in vain to cheer him up. "At least one of us is having fun. Training a disciple," Shigur stated in her customary tone of voice, and the others realized who the weapons master was referring to as Mew and Rhea entered carrying baskets of freshly washed garments. After placing the basket down and taking a seat alongside Mew, Rhea said, "The Elder and Naruto, right? Those two can take training way too seriously." Mew flinched with disapproval. "Are you sure you weren't too harsh on them about what happened?" The masters cringed at the notion of the Elder and Naruto's final training session, including Akisame, Mew, and even Kenichi. "Of course not," Mui said triumphantly, huffing. "Those two went too crazy and nearly destroyed the dojo while setting the house on fire. But telling them to do their technique training and sparring sessions somewhere else," Rhea said, hoping to persuade Mew that her punishment was wrong, "is completely acceptable." Rhea groaned before chuckling at the memories of Mew chastising Naruto and the Elder for the damage they'd caused to Ryozanapku house, one of which was accidentally setting fire to the main building. "He's getting stronger with each session," she said, blushing slightly as she remembered Naruto's not-so-private promise to always defend her. But it begs the question. Everyone turned to stare at Akisame, who had his foot on the exhausted Kenichi's back. Where does the Elder take Naruto for training sessions now that they've banned him from here? That question lingered in their minds throughout the day. Noon. Dark Valley, Japan's heart. The student of The Invincible Superman would have thought the dense blanket of strong, towering, and different types of trees that stretched over the country for kilometers with surrounding mountain formations to be a vacation site or even reside in such a region with no one around for miles. Instead, it served as another training ground for his Furinji style. Ha! With his palm, the Elder deflected his young disciple's impending fist. "Nice thrust, Naruto." "I'm not done yet," Naruto exclaimed, pulling back his hand and flipping backwards. He utilized a tree to lift himself into the air and quickly brought his fists down in a figure-8 formation as he crashed down. "Furinji Tenku Ryujin," says the narrator. The assault didn't land because the Elder turned transparent. Instead, the earth became obscured and flecks of dirt were chucked by the might of the technique. As the Furinji-style disciple, Ninja stood up in his little crater, he was surrounded by many elders in the basic battle position of the Furinji style, causing Naruto to prepare for another battle while recognizing the technique. "The Bushin technique, huh?" Naruto remarked, amused by his master's attempt to imitate him as he slipped into the Furinji-style basic stance. His left arm is paralleled with the backhand turned around and fingers pointing upwards, while his right arm is aligned with his shoulder and the hand pointed upwards with the palm present. "Are you trying to copy me?" The odds are now even as an equal number of Naruto clones materialize in a circle, each facing one of the Elder clones before engaging in a flurry of punches and kicks. Imagine Jinchuriki's amazement when he discovered that this planet had its own version of the fundamental clone technique that is similar to the versions in his world. The surrounding trees rustled their hanging leaves when the master and disciple clones phased away due to an undesirable presence belonging to one recognizable blonde shinobi. However, this world's version of the clone technique is considered to be an ancient technique rather than a basic one back home. The technique can be performed if the user moves his/her body with great speed in a special way instead of using chakra to perform it. Pretty convenient. Naruto thought before feeling a huge yet familiar presence behind him, forcing him to jump off to avoid being sliced in half. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for the branch he took refuge on, which was slashed in half by a gigantic arm. Cutting it a little there, my disciple. The presence jumped high in the sky, where the sun revealed it to be none other than the elder, who had a wide grin on his face and shining eyes. Aren't you supposed to be a ninja? Hey! A tick-marked Naruto yelled, waving his fist at his airborne master. I am a ninja. I sensed you coming from miles away, didn't I? He jumped high enough to reach the top of the tree behind him before drawing back far enough to hurtle himself into the air as his body turned like a missile with his arms outstretched. Musou Chijiguruma, says the narrator. Furinji Oshi-ite! Exclaimed the elder, extending his right palm forward and creating a shockwave that snapped his disciple's technique while flattening him into the ground in the middle of a massive handprint mark. Overjoyed, the elder dropped quickly, his arms in a figure-8 arrangement similar to the one Naruto deployed before. Furinji Tenku Ryujin, says the narrator. Naruto narrowly escaped with a quick roll followed by a back handstand and a rapid back flip as the location he was laying turned into a bomb site when his master landed. Now's my chance. He leapt forward with a drawn punch and launched it when he was within striking distance of the elder, only to find he only had one technique. Oh, crap. Seikuken! Exclaimed the senior Furinji member as he deflected his disciple's fist before sending his own fast punch, which was deflected by him. Impressive, Naruto. Your Seikuken has improved even more as a result of my efforts. Naruto laughed dryly as he and the elder exchanged punches that were deflected and blocked by being in each other's Seikuken radius. Minutes passed and neither of the men gave an inch to the other while looking determined. When their fists collided, little shockwaves sent short spurts of wind with no breaks in between. After an hour, the elder broke their Seikuken deadlock with a quick low kick that knocked Naruto off his feet and onto the ground. The blonde ninja was going to stand up when he noticed an alien knife hand with its fingers near to his face. So, are you going to surrender or fight? Naruto's lips curved into a grin. What do you think? The elder didn't seem to mind when Naruto turned to smoke. I see. Hayato's eyes flashed brilliantly, and an excited grin appeared. So you're doing it after all. Bring it on. Naruto's voice boomed through the dense forest, as if they were in a stadium or cave. Furinji ni Hito Shuriken, says the narrator. When the elder felt an attack coming from behind him, he didn't turn around to see two spinning human-sized objects approaching him until he turned around with lashing arms that caught the objects. The items turned out to be blonde ninja clones. Clones that are solid. The shadow clone technique, I presume. He inquired of the two slightly apprehensive clones who nodded in his gigantic hands. Not long ago, he asked Naruto about the clone ability he utilized against the Arrancar, which the latter elaborated on. But seeing and feeling the real thing is a totally different experience. It's an incredible technique that is obviously superior to the original. You must one day teach me, and you added another technique to my martial art, which makes me happy. Hayato let go of the clones before their leg attacks could hit him, and sent them flying into a tree with another swift open palm thrust. Furinji Oshi-ite! Exclaimed Furinji. After crashing and knocking over trees, the two clones vanished in separate puffs of smoke, leaving the elder alone as he eagerly awaits his disciple's next move. And he did it by springing from the ground in front of the Furinji-style master with a right uppercut that was blocked at the end. As soon as Naruto regained his footing, he and the elder exchanged punches that never reached each other due to their activated Seikukens. As the standoff continues and the immense pressures produce little shockwaves, Naruto breaks the pattern by avoiding a swift left punch that just touched his cheek and pivoting his right leg to unleash a powerful left roundhouse kick to the elder's stomach. The assault sent a shockwave around the two warriors, gently upturning the ground. The boy's smirk vanished when he noticed his master's right arm had crossed his chest and blocked the impact of his kick. But dread struck him as he watched him grip his attached leg with both hands. Oh crap, he exclaimed before being hoisted off the ground and crushed into the ground many times like an action figure, leaving body-sized indentations in the process. Hayato released the child on the ground after 10 minutes, the latter panting heavily from the loss of air and injuries. Are you finished now? Naruto responded by leaping to his feet and thrusting his right hand, carrying a sphere of blue ki that appeared out of nowhere. The elder recognized the technique's force and countered by spinning around the youngster and delivering a fast chop to the neck, causing a tiny shockwave. The ninja lurched forward before landing face first with the sphere still active in his palm as a result of losing consciousness. When the ki sphere made contact with the ground, Hayato folded his arms. What an incredible ki technique! Hayato exclaimed as he noticed a crater next to Naruto and beneath his right palm. If such a technique ever gets into the hands of those who follow the Satsujinkan, things will never be the same for Katsujinkan followers. I lost again? He muttered as he crossed his arms and lay down on his back. Yes, you did. For the 17th time, if I must say, the elder chuckled to his disciple, who had a tick mark on his forehead as he sat cross-legged. But you've come a long way since you first started training, Naruto, and your current progress will undoubtedly lead you to becoming a master. Naruto understood that his rapid advancement was primarily due to his shadow clone technique and its unique effect of clones communicating everything they learned back to him, including martial arts technique instruction. He'd rehearsed a new technique every night with 3 to 5 clones to ensure he understood and used it correctly before moving on to the next one when the elder felt he was ready. However, you must not rely solely on techniques, use all of your abilities. Yes, master, Naruto replied, looking at his master, who was sitting in the same position as him, before a grin rippled his lips. To be honest, he paused short to ensure his master's attention. I thought the Furinji style or any type of martial arts would interfere with the way I fight, but I was wrong. My taijutsu improved and became more organized than before. According to what the elder told him before the training session began, the Furinji style is a hybrid martial arts combat style. Hybrid martial arts, like mixed martial arts, takes and combines several martial arts methods, as Kenichi does with the Ryozanapku master's styles, but it truly blends various disciplines and techniques into a more effective and useful technique than the original version. Naruto, like Kenichi, is classed as a mixed martial artist in the martial arts world, whereas Mew and the Elder are categorized as hybrid martial artists. He demonstrated his position by combining the Shadow Clone technique and the Furinji Hito Shuriken to create a stronger form of the technique, Furinji ni Hito Shuriken. That's good to hear, my boy, but... He paused before a sparkle in his eyes and a smug grin surfaced. You're still unable to land a hit on me. That's because you said I could only use 2 ninjutsu techniques during our sparring session this time. And I distinctly remember telling you I want to see how I fare in a fight without using them from the beginning of my training. Naruto retorted comically with a balled fist as his master heartily laughed at him, somehow calming him while pouting his head. You insisted I use them this time, and those techniques are my bread and butter, and I still couldn't hit you. Someday, Naruto. Someday you will with more training and experience, Hayato assured his apprentice as he nodded. Tell me, son, what was that last technique you used against me? Is it a key technique, and if it is, it's probably the most powerful one I've ever seen. Naruto responded simply, his injuries gone as a result of his fast recovery. That was the Rasengan, which my father created after 3 years. Although it appears to be a key technique, it's actually chakra. My chakra, and for the record, chakra is similar to ki but different. On the first week of Naruto's training, the master and disciple also discussed the similarities and distinctions between ki and chakra. The technique itself is actually pure chakra, and everyone can see it. Hayato nodded with a brush of his beard as he shrugged. Incredible. Truly an incredible technique you have, Naruto. Your father must have been a genius to create something as powerful as the Rasengan. Thanks. Naruto snickered, grabbing Hayato's attention with a head tilt. However, it was an incomplete technique at the time, so I managed to finish it with some assistance. That caught Hayato off guard. Is that correct? That's really impressive. Could you show me the finished version? No way. Not until I fight someone else. Hayato shrugged his shoulders, somewhat pouting. Fair enough, Naruto. He stood up, prompting Naruto to follow suit as they both looked east. Are you sure you're ready to go back? Now? They usually train all day until the sun goes down. The filthy and sweating shinobi then nodded before feeling a touch on his shoulder and turning to face the older man. Master, what is it? Master? Is there something wrong? Perhaps we can return home using one of your ninjutsu techniques? Inquired an elder, shocking Naruto by the request. Surely you must have a technique that allows you to move at a high speed. The follower of the Furinji style then raised an eyebrow. Yeah, but why? Because I am your master, and disciples do what their masters tell them, Hayato said with a grin, only to be met with a confused expression from the younger boy. You just want to see another one of my ninjutsu techniques? Seeing the towering guy on his knees and imploring in front of him caused Naruto to sigh and place a hand on his massive shoulder. Better hold on tight. A single leaf gently plummeted to the ground as it passed the 2 martial artists, and by the time it landed, the 2 entities had vanished, leaving only a fleeting flash of yellow light as testimony. Dojo Ryozanapku, come on, master. You're known as the invincible Superman to every martial artist in the world, and you're complaining about a technique like that? Naruto said as he followed his suddenly sickened struck teacher out of his chamber. Although I've grown accustomed to the sensation and eventually overcame it thanks to consistent training, I forgot that other people will experience the same effects for the first time, as well as the fact that the flying Raijin Jutsu is an S-rank technique. As they walked outside to the dojo training grounds, Hayato moaned and fought the urge to vomit. Never happen again, Naruto. Hey, you insisted, and I listened to you. Remember what you said, because I am your master, and disciples do what their masters tell them, he added, nearly imitating the elder's voice and even ending his sentence with the latter's loud laugh. Hayato resisted the impulse to whack his disciple in the forehead with a tick mark. Don't try to push it. When the blonde master and student arrived at the dojo, they were unsurprised to see Kenichi on the ground with a lifeless expression in his eyes and a crying Apachai on his knees near the youngster. He just got Apachai ed again, Naruto joked as Hayato nodded with a touch of his beard. Mew. Mew arrived soon after, holding a bucket of water, and she was astonished to see them. Naruto? Grandpa. You're up early today, she said after throwing the water on Kenichi, who awoke immediately from the chilly water. He looked down at the coughing brown-haired disciple sibling and said, Tell me about it. Training as hard as usual, Kenichi? Yeah. Murmured Kenichi. When Apachai approached him with his eyes sparkling with eagerness, Naruto didn't flinch as he peered at the coy's strongest disciple. No, Apachai, I'm not training with you for the 100th time. He laid a loving hand on the crouching, depressed Muay Thai behemoth, who was circling the dirt with his huge fingers. Sorry, bud. Appa. Apachai wants to train Naruto in Muay Thai because he doesn't die from training sessions like Kenichi. Appa. Apachai whined as he rocked Kenichi back and forth. Elder's training is more difficult than any master's, and yet Naruto survives. With a pouty Kenichi staring through him, Naruto awkwardly chuckled. But Kenichi here is really tough, Apachai. If he hadn't been tough at the start, he would have left after the first day. Heck, he might have left before the training even started. That says something about Kenichi. He sweated as the youngster grasped his knees with tears in his eyes. Dude, you need to get a grip. But you're so nice to me, Naruto. I don't want to let go. Kenichi reflected, his prior demeanor gone. I won't be if you don't let go of my leg this time, Naruto complained, and Kenichi agreed before he was knocked unconscious the first time. Thank you, he said as he shifted his gaze to the newcomers, the remainder of Ryozanapku's masters and Rhea, and smiled at them. Hey there, guys. Naruto's welcome was initially returned by Akisame. Welcome back, but you two are back earlier than usual, the other masters agreed, observing the blonde boy's outfit. I never thought there would be another person who could actually endure and handle the elder's training for this long, even though he and Rhea have only been at Ryozanapku for 3 weeks. Naruto took a peek at Rhea, who was glowing in her green top and skirt in the sunlight. Yeah. You always stink after your training sessions, she admonished nasally, wrapping her fingers around her nose, causing the ninja to smell his duggie and recoil in horror. What is it with you men and not caring about being smelly? It's a sign of hard work, responded Naruto, receiving nods from the male masters. I don't care, I'm going to take a bath right now. You're not the boss of me. The masters entered the dojo building and closed the door after watching the two visitors argue about hygiene, but not before Sakari instructed Kenichi to practice his karate katas to warm up for his karate session. I wonder why the masters are having a private meeting. Kenichi wondered as his arms swung back and forth like a pulley. Mew responded with a shrug. Alright, I hope it's nothing serious. Wham, ouch. The cry brought Kenichi and Mew's attention to Naruto on the ground, nursing a knock on the head as an enraged Rhea strode back to the main house. Wait. Rhea, I didn't mean it like that, come back. Naruto said as he pursued her, recalling Kenichi's remarks. Could the meeting be related to the recent attacks on Kenichi and Mew? Dojo construction, Yami has already begun their war on us. The masters agreed as they looked at the elder, who was this time serious. When it comes to something serious or dangerous, such as the Yami group, he transforms from the nice elderly guy to the serious and ferocious fighter that the martial arts world has known for decades. Yeah. The attacks over the last few weeks are clear proof of that declaration. The Russian kid and his pals clearly went through intense training, as evidenced by his fight with Kenichi, Akisame observed analytically. However, neither he nor any of Yami's allies appear to be aware of you having your own disciple, Elder. Sakari flicked a little wax ball onto the ground while picking his ear. Have you told the kid anything about Yami? He questioned as he sipped his beer. Kensai spoke up instead of the elder. It's clear he hasn't, but I'm not sure why. Why? Haven't you told him? Shigure inquired, her pet mouse, Tochumaru, perched between her breasts, much to Kensai's chagrin. Apachai was the next to bring it up. Why haven't you told Naruto? He'd be able to knock people out in one shot. Kenichi has been the proof of that. He was referring to the time Naruto and Kenichi sparred and the blonde martial artist knocked him out with a punch to the stomach. He has other things that require his full attention, Hayato said cryptically, sighing. He couldn't tell his colleagues' masters the truth about his trainee unless he gave them permission to do so. He doesn't need to be involved in this. Akisame chimed in. You're both hiding something, and you've been hiding something since you brought him here to the dojo. Old man. Sakari confirmed Akisame's comments as he and the others gazed at the strongest of them. Hayato sighed and crossed his arms as he looked at his old jujitsu partner. That is between my disciple and I. However, only Naruto will decide whether to tell you everything about himself. Until then, I have nothing more to say. When Akisame didn't take the answer and was going to bring up the subject again, they heard the sliding door open slightly and Naruto's head pop out. Sorry for interrupting, but I'm going for a run around town for a while. See you at dinner. He drew his head back from the door before sticking his head back in. Oh, and Master Furinji, you can tell them about me. I don't want to instill fear among everyone here. You guys are too cool for that. Laters. Sakari smiled smugly as the boy closed the door after a brief moment of stillness. He called me cool. He called all of us cool, Sakari, Kensai pointed out, feeling a little conceited himself. It didn't take long for the masters to turn to the elder and begin detailing the events surrounding Naruto. It did, however, begin with an unexpected sentence. I have an offer for you all that you will not refuse. In collaboration with Naruto, docks of Tokyo, Naruto pondered as he jumped from one building's rooftop to the one in front of him, his countenance gloomy. Akisame had suspicions about me since I arrived at Ryozanapku. He wondered as he came to a halt on top of a freight container, his ninja stealth in action. After a fruitless attempt to apologize to Rhea, he accidentally rested near the dojo door and heard practically everything. Have I done anything to make him suspicious of me? He was still wearing his training dogi because he was going for a run. It didn't make sense to change out of my training clothes only to dash around the city and get all sweaty again. So the character of Yami doesn't come to mind at all? I wonder who they are, Ashura speculated. From the tone of the elder's voice, it sounds like they're very dangerous. Which brings Sakari's question to mind. Why didn't the elder tell me about Yami or the recent attacks on Kenichi, Mew, and the dojo? Naruto wondered as memories from the last 3 weeks flashed through his memory. When he was recovering from a session, the elder would urge him to run about town with a giant clay statue Akisame sculpted or perform an errand outside of town for no reason, and when he returned, he'd notice traces of struggle and destruction in and around the dojo. If that wasn't suspect enough, Kenichi and Mew would both return to the dojo with bruises and evidence of fighting, mostly on the latter. I wonder. He hesitated when the dock workers abruptly dropped whatever task they were working on and dashed to the main office. What the hell is going on? Naruto jumped from the crate he was on and landed with silent feet while using the transparency jutsu to turn invisible. As the invisible ninja made his way to the congested workplace, he noticed television displaying an urgent news program with a woman in a business suit standing in front of a hospital. We bring you live news from one of Tokyo's local hospitals, where many victims appear to have turned to stone. All of the victims are men of various social levels. That's a little strange, Naruto thought as images of stoned patients on gurneys were hurried through the hospital's entrance. From the looks of things, this has to be supernatural. One of the inspectors working on this mystery case commented on the intricacies of the sculpture's attire, stating that none of the victims have any ties to each other. All of the incidents took place on the outskirts of northern Tokyo. All right then, Naruto stated aloud before sunshining out of the docks, attracting the attention of a worker. The worker turned to face a colleague standing on his right. You say something? Nope. Dojo construction Ryozanapku dojo, are you serious about this, elder? Hayato nodded earnestly to Akisame as he told his fellow and younger masters, all of whom looked surprised, even the composed Shigure, who twitched her hand at the hilt. No kidding, right? Sakari asked, slightly excited, to confirm what the old guy had just said. His response was a nod. My, I didn't expect something like this to come so soon, Kensai said, looking at Apachai, who has a serious expression with a glimmer in his eyes, only equaled by Shigure and her pet, Tochumaru, rubbing its paws together with a sly grin. Rhea, Mew, and Kenichi stood outside the dojo with frightened expressions on their faces. They all got down on their knees and squeezed their hands together with their prayer mantra. Please, please, please let him live. Please, please, please let him live. In collaboration with Naruto Northern Tokyo, the Jinchuriki arrived to the last victim's location after around 30 minutes of stealthy rooftop hopping. They kept the crime scenes so well preserved that the latest victim was easy to locate. Naruto headed to the body outline where the 10th and final victim was discovered when the police arrived, just like the prior victims in the other crime scenes. He crouched to seek for any traces of disruptions in the area that had gone unnoticed.
What's this? Naruto wondered as he came across a small mound of specks near the rear of a dumpster. His index and middle fingers were immersed in it. It feels like ash, he said as he rubbed his ash-covered fingers together. And rough yet soft at the same time. How could the cops have overlooked something like this? Kurama spoke through the link at that point. Look to your left, Naruto. There's a small trail leading away from the scene. The ninja did discover a short trail of ashy specks leading away from the crime scene and followed it, having no idea what awaited him ahead. A few minutes later, the huge trail of the ashy specks that stopped behind a guy dressed in a black, torn cloak standing in front of a cave was somewhere in the forest and mountains that serve as Tokyo's nature backyard. The only distinguishing feature of the strange figure is the long and thick tail that protrudes from the cloak. The figure chuckled before turning its head slightly over its shoulder and entered the cave, the ashes resuming their route. Soon, I'll have you all to myself, my dear Poseidon. After tree-hopping amid the branches, Naruto arrived in front of the cave after a few minutes. His pupils constricted as he came to a halt in front of the cave, where only blackness awaited him. There's something in there, I can feel it. This will be a good test to see your martial arts skills, and I can't wait for you to fail, he says, implying that he's still not over Naruto's Furinji-style training. Don't be afraid to use my power if your martial arts aren't working for you. Naruto groaned as he entered the cave, letting himself to be enveloped by darkness. Naruto could watch the light from outside fade away with each step he took until it was completely gone. Despite the darkness, he continued going as if he were strolling around the park. With my ninja training combined with Furinji-style training, my senses are sharper than ever, Naruto thought as he strolled into the cave, dodging sharp pebbles that threatened to topple him. He continued walking till he came to a halt when a faint sound echoed in the cave. Someone's here. Naruto heard the sound of something being pulled back, as if that someone was confirming its presence. Thwip. Naruto caught the projectile object, which was an arrow based on its weight and size. You must be confident and skilled to fire arrows like this in the dark, he murmured aloud before returning to his thoughts. Whoever this person is, the arrow was clearly aimed at my head. Chuckle. I didn't expect you to catch the arrow with your hand. The echoing voice belongs to a woman, according to Naruto. But that's to be expected for you. My dear Poseidon. When the woman discovered out his title, the youngster knew something else. From her tone, it sounded like she knew me, or better yet, Poseidon himself, Naruto said after finishing his thoughts. Listen to me. I'm not sure if you've heard, but the ninja sidestepped and slid backwards to avoid an invisible volley of arrows sank into the wall behind him. Then he leapt away to avoid being hammered to the ground by a falling ceiling spike. Fast. Thwip 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 thwip. Naruto deflected another round of arrows with a series of back handsprings that dug into the ground after missing him. He felt a presence behind him as he landed back on his feet. A pair of yellow snake-like eyes blazed and seemed to puncture the back of his head. You're quite agile. I wonder how agile you are in bed. The figure joked before seemingly vanishing into the cavern walls to avoid Naruto's fist, which was dug into the wall with spider cracks, and strong as well. Unfazed by his fist in the wall, Naruto drew it out before making a Rasengan that was larger than his usual one and included 4 protrusion-like blades. The ninja chuckled as he lunged forward towards the opponent, who was perched on the cave ceiling. Let there be light, says the wind style, giant Rasengan. The assault connected to the location where the figure was before it dodged, surprising her as she lifted her arms in a protective posture when an explosion blew her back with a shockwave. In the meantime, Ryozanapku Dojo, ha! Kenichi exclaimed as he fired a thrust attack from his karate stance during his afternoon training with his karate master. You're still much too slow. The remainder of the Ryozanapku inhabitants, who were sitting on the porch of the dojo building, saw Kenichi fall to the ground hard after being kicked by Sakari. The masters appeared, agitated, with the exception of the elder, who was sipping Mu's freshly brewed tea. Sakari and Kenichi, in particular, were aware of it. Master Sakari? Is there something wrong? Kenichi inquired, his arms in karate action. Kenichi realized something when he watched the other masters giving the wooden gates the same look Sakari did, as if they were anticipating someone. They're just waiting for Naruto to return. Who told you to stop? Sakari slammed at Kenichi, knocking him out cleanly once more. Dang it. Hayato chuckled as Mu ran to toss the bucket of water on Kenichi while staring at the younger masters who were waiting for their trainee to return from his jog around town. However, he is concerned because he has not returned after an hour. Could Naruto be handling something supernatural related?
Hayato mused after recalling his student's true world. Rhea, on the other hand, was assisting Mew with the laundry, which was the final task for the day before making dinner. The Titaness pondered numerous things about Naruto as she properly hung a blanket sheet along the clothesline. Who was that man? She wondered, alluding to the one known as Ashura. Both Naruto and this Kurama person referred to that man as his ancestor. I'll ask him when he returns. Rhea checked the time by looking at her shadow. After Kronos deposed their father, Oranos, she learnt the technique from her brother and Titan of the Sun, Helios. 1:15, she mumbled, catching Mew's eye as she gazed at the blonde girl. He's been gone for 3 hours. Mew nodded, curious about the whereabouts of her fellow blonde. What could be keeping him on his jog? He's usually back around this time or earlier. She remained still for a bit before bursting out laughing. I have to admit that Naruto is really amazing. I know. Rhea trailed off with a slight blush as she gazed out the window at the blue sky that was once her father's dominion. I hope you're okay, Naruto. Along with Naruto, forest part of the mountains detonated from within, trembling the soil and frightening the fauna around, with numerous species of birds fleeing in terror. Smoking from the source of the explosion was a large hole, allowing sunshine into the cave to offset the darkness, and in the center was the one responsible for the abnormal occurrence. Achoo! Naruto exclaimed, flexing his right fist, which had been slightly singed by the strike. Someone must be talking about me, he thought as he waited for his eyes to adjust to the dim light in the cave. I think I overdid it just a little. After a chuckle, the woman's voice echoed around him. My, you're still a braggart after all these years. But I don't blame you. After all, we had a good time together. Before he could act, Naruto felt something wrap around his body, confining his arms and legs and preventing him from moving. Damn it! He scolded himself for letting his guard down for even a fraction of a second. His eyes widened in surprise as he looked at what had captured him. What the hell? He discovered the bottom body of a snake, with the upper body still behind him, preventing him from seeing what it is completely. However, he received his response from the woman, who was standing behind him. Oh, the snake-like woman grumbled, you're not as muscular as I recall you being. Did you lose all of your muscles after centuries of sleeping with other women? Naruto's eyes widened as his understanding of Greek mythology came into play. Her personal familiarity with Poseidon, the snake-like body, and her skill with arrows, she's got to be. He instinctively closed his eyes as the hooded figure circled in front of him. You closed your eyes? You don't want to see my beauty, or is it because you don't remember who I am? The woman drew her hood aside to reveal her face, but she was taken aback when her hostage vanished in a puff of smoke. What? Naruto trembled as he gets a clear look of the woman who is attempting to murder him while hiding close on the ceiling where the dark is still his ally with the transparency jutsu activated. She has near-perfect skin with no wrinkles, as well as an upper body with enormous breasts that are hidden by a bikini top. Her arms and hands, however, are covered in scales, and her hair is a nest of snakes that hissed as they looked around the cave, as if looking for him. The woman who turned into a monster after unjustly suffering Athena's wrath. The former priestess of Athena's temple. And a single direct glare from her will turn anyone into stone. Medusa, Naruto grimaced before softly returning to the ground. Whatever you're about to do, don't do it, Kurama exclaimed, having deduced his Jinchuriki's current strategy. Naruto, on the other hand, did not listen and yelled out loud. Medusa? The woman's head snapped at him, the small snakes hissing in response. He took a step back after recalling the snake woman's lethal power. Oh, I forgot about that. Really? You forgot about me so much that you don't remember the fun fact that immortals, including gods, aren't affected by my stare? Medusa questioned, her face displeased. Naruto reiterated his earlier request after plucking both of his ears and flicking the waxes on his fingers somewhere. Relax. I just want to talk, he remarked casually, then astonished when he realized what Medusa had just said. What was that last thing you said? Don't flatter yourself, Naruto. She must be referring to the trident, which is imbued with Poseidon's power and is extremely powerful, so it's logical to believe it will protect you from Medusa's stone stare. The shinobi nodded slightly. That's got to be it. The trident is one of the most powerful and oldest weapons in the world, he said, pausing in time to hear the former priestess rant. Talk? Medusa yelled angrily after ignoring Naruto's final question. Did you talk to me before you forced yourself on me centuries ago in Athena's temple? Did you talk to Athena about lifting my curse after centuries? No, you did not. Naruto took a deep breath and looked somber. Medusa, he quickly caught an arrow aimed at his head and tossed it away. Medusa, please let me. Enough talk, said Medusa as she fired another arrow that missed her target yet again. We'll talk after I knock you out. Very well.
Naruto abruptly crouches on his knees before shooting forward in a spiral motion with his arms out in front, surprising Medusa with the unexpected and swift attack as his arms crashed on her stomach. "Furinji Chijiguruma," exclaimed Furinji. The attack sent Medusa flying across the chamber, knocking the wind out of her and caused her to drop her bow as she smashed against the wall, sliding down after a while. The ground erupted around her as she shook her head to regain her bearings, tightening her movements to prevent her from escaping. The ground? Naruto moved calmly, approaching the imprisoned Medusa, who was now staring straight through him after landing from his recent attack. "Can we talk now?" He leaned slightly forward to avoid a glob of saliva before repositioning his head. "With that out of the way, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I am the heir to the title of Poseidon and the status of Olympian after the sea god himself." The stunned immortal snake archer looked at the boy in front of her before her cheeks blew up and laughter burst from her mouth. "Ahahahaha, that's a good joke right there. But I have the trident right here," Naruto said after summoning the trident in his dominant hand. "I wouldn't make a joke about something like this." "Well, I would if it weren't true." Medusa scoffed as she moved her head away from the lad, her snake hair hissing. "If you truly are the next Poseidon, then all of his errors have been passed down to you." "I figured as much," Naruto said, pointing his trident at his female prisoner. "I should begin by correcting one of my predecessor's errors, which was that he should have lifted the curse from you himself. What happened to you at that temple was not your fault, and yet only you suffered Athena's wrath." Medusa was absolutely taken aback as she peered at the one in front of her. "I expected him to defend Poseidon like a loyal successor would to a predecessor." She shook her head, still looking away from him. "You talk big, but I doubt you can lift the curse because you're mortal." "Chuckle, I won't know until I try, right?" The trident shone somewhat brighter in his fingers as the energy bolts surrounded the three tips, once again shocking Medusa. "Medusa of Athena's temple, I hereby release you from your curse." The energy bolts erupted from the trident's tips and struck their target, surrounding the woman in a blinding light, resulting in a scream and a minor explosion. Naruto gazed in disbelief after the small dust cloud dispersed and lowering his left arm from his face, as he had not expected the outcome at all. Standing in front of him was no longer the creature who had tried to murder him, but a stunning lady with a supermodel's face, deep purple eyes, a curvy physique with enormous breasts, and flowing blonde hair with orange streaks. Overall, her attractiveness is comparable to Rhea's. Wow. Naruto mumbled as he locked away his trident before drawing out a scroll and summoning a set of women's attire. "Good thing I packed this for an occasion like this." After wiping the nosebleed, he took up the clothing and moved in front of the disoriented woman before snapping his fingers and removing her from the situation. He gazed at the trident and said, "Welcome back, priestess. I can't believe that actually worked, even though it's my first time." The now beautiful woman blinked and looked down, surprised to see her old body. "Aye. My body is." "Yeah," murmured Naruto before being smacked across the buttocks. "What was that for?" "Pervert," shrieked Medusa, diving to her knees with her arms covering her breasts. "I didn't think you'd actually lift the curse, but," she said as the ground surrounded her in a circle, concealing her view all around. "Why did you?" "It's so you can get dressed without me seeing you," Naruto explained from the other side of the mud wall, his face flushed deep red. "When you're ready, let me know." He sat cross-legged with the trident across his knees before taking a deep breath and beginning to meditate. It wasn't long before a knock jolted him out of his trance, his gaze fixed on the wall. "I'm ready." Naruto nodded before lowering the wall, his blush deepening as he unknowingly stares at her. "Please, stop staring at me like that." Medusa was dressed in a tight blue shirt that squeezed her bosom, exposing her navel, and black slim jeans that accentuated her hourglass shape, with open sandals covering her legs. Her long blonde orange hair was pulled back into twin ponytails. Sorry, it's just that. I can clearly see why so many men, including Poseidon, would desire you," Naruto said as a terrified Medusa covered her torso. "Don't worry about me, I won't do what my predecessor did." "Thank you," she said, her cheeks flushed. "Perhaps I can repay you for lifting the curse." After sealing away the trident, Naruto put his finger to his chin, not understanding her point. "Actually, you can," he said, placing his hand on her shoulder, which elicited a gasp from her. "You do any housework?" "What?" Medusa inquired as she and Naruto vanished in a yellow blur. Ryozanapku Dojo Naruto's room. The two persons appeared before one of them collapsed on an empty bottle, prompting Medusa to fall as well because Naruto's hand was still on her shoulder. "Ouch. Medusa, are you alright?" The shinobi came to a halt as he discovered the woman on top of him, his left hand cupping her right breast. Naruto hurriedly pulled his hand from her bosom with a slight nosebleed when she realized it. "Sorry about that." Medusa, who was blushing, reassured him, "It's okay. I know it wasn't done on purpose." The sound of hurried footsteps and the door sliding open drew their attention before they could separate themselves. When they looked up to see a female with black hair standing there, they both had distinct expressions. Naruto's was dread, while Medusa's was curiosity. "And Naruto?" Rhea murmured, her grin forced and her brow twitching. "Who exactly is this woman?" He and Rhea were caught off guard when Medusa stood up from Naruto and walked to her with an irritated expression. "Who are you, girlie?" she mockingly inquired. "She has no idea who that girl is, does she?" Naruto shivered. "None whatsoever. Would you say she's digging her own grave?" "You may repeat that, Ashura," Naruto said. He interjected through the link as soon as he remembered Ashura's aloofness. "And I don't mean it literally." He heard his ancestor say, "Okay," before noticing something else in the air. It became really quiet. Naruto, the Furinji-style disciple, was sweating bullets as a glowing and pouty Rhea stood in front of him, glaring at him while holding an unconscious Medusa with a lump on her head. "Would you mind telling me what you were doing with this snake?" "Well, Naruto couldn't say anything because Rhea had a firm grasp on his arm. He and Medusa were hauled out of the apartment complex before he realized it. His problem didn't end when Rhea let go of him and he crashed on the ground with a thud. Ouch. Okay, what was that all about?" He trailed off as he gazed at what was in front of him. The brilliant eyes of the Elder and the other masters were staring right through him, as if penetrating his soul. "Naruto!" exclaimed the Elder, startling his student with his anger. "What does this all mean? Dare you to defile my dojo with debauchery? Worst of all, you forgot your daily jog." He appears to believe that his student blew his training after seeing the unknown and unconscious woman near Rei's feet. Naruto, his cheeks somewhat heated, waved his hands defensively in an attempt to clear up the misunderstanding. "Wait, master. This is not what it appears to be. I'll explain. Due to your action, I will change my proposal right now." That piqued Naruto's interest. Proposal? What kind of proposal? What is he on about? He pondered before sweating from witnessing the other master's delighted eyes sparkle brighter than before. "For some reason, I have an uneasy sensation that it includes them." "Masters," the Elder yelled to his younger martial arts experts, "whoever lands the most hits on my disciple will be told of his secrets." "What? Master, why?" Naruto shouted aloud, tears flowing down his cheeks, already struggling to keep up with the Elder's teaching. The battle has started. A terrified Naruto just rolled out of Apachai's power punch, which threatened to smash his body into the ground, and when he stood up, he found himself surrounded by the 5 masters in their unique martial arts battle postures. "Why me? I guess I have no choice," Naruto sniffled before raising his Seikuken, forcing the masters to scoot back a little to stay out of range. Begin. The rest of the day was filled with the symphony of crashes, screams, and cries of various martial art types techniques. The following morning, Naruto's room, pant, those monsters. A heavily bruised and cut up Naruto whimpered on the floor in the center of his room after the hell trail he had just gone through all night. Apparently his master, the Elder, gave the other masters the idea of sparring with him in order to learn about his secret despite Naruto giving him permission earlier in the day. "The Elder must have another reason for doing this," Naruto said after taking a deep breath. "Although I think it's quite clear about the second reason." He then sat up before pulling out a large sheet of paper the width of his room and writing blood-imprinted Fuinjutsu symbols on it. He sighed deeply after forming the specific hand signs for whatever he's about to do. Slamming his hand on the center symbol, Naruto saw the paper briefly glow as an ethereal screen made of pure chakra ascended from it, the inside of it glowing like the bridge between the worlds. As the screen turned from black to the inside of a familiar room, and inside the room was a familiar teenage girl who didn't seem to notice his presence at all. "My god. She's still beautiful after all this time," Naruto said quietly to the girl. "Seiko, turn around, it's me." When the girl heard his voice, Seiko turned around, revealing a protruding tummy behind her too large top, her purple hair braided with small yellow flowers over her left shoulder. "Is that indeed you?" she inquired, her eyes welling up with tears. "It is." Tears threatened to fall from his eyes as well. "It's so lovely to see you. How are you and your colleagues doing?" Seiko sat softly on her bed, her palm on her stomach, holding it. "A lot has changed since you went. The island's population has grown 5-fold, but the zombie menace remains." Naruto frowned, and Seiko noticed. "Don't worry too much. After Takashi and Rei performed a rescue mission in Kyoto, we now have a massive weaponry arsenal. Alex and Shizuka also founded a clinic with a doctor they met in Osaka. How about Kyoto and Osaka? Those 2 cities are pretty deep in northern and western Japan,
especially Osaka, Naruto pointed. His knowledge of Japan's geography was drilled into his brain so he could meet the Elder at the Dark Valley for his morning training sessions. The first time he went alone to meet his master, he ended up in southern Japan instead of the heart and doing twice the amount of training, which lasted 2 days. Seiko nodded, her gaze fixed on her stomach, as did Naruto's. They're twins, in case you're wondering. What? Twins is in too? He inquired, his face flushed with delight. We're having 2 children. He received a nod from his smiling interdimensional girlfriend before returning her smile, tears threatening to escape his blue eyes. How long before you? In about 6 months. 6 months. So 3 months had gone in her world since his departure. I really wish I could be there for the 3 of you, he lamented. Is it possible for you to return here without using the trans-dimensional technique? Naruto frowned and shook his head. What about this technique you're using to connect with me? Can you change it in any way? Seiko inquired, eager. Good question, the ninja said, placing his palm under his chin. Although it may take longer because this technique is intended to be used for communication. His eyes widen as he looks at his watch, but relief washes over him because he still has 5 minutes. When Naruto looked up to find Seiko's puzzled expression, he explained his action. There's a time limit to this technique, so. I see. Seiko began after a little silence, which was quickly broken by an unexpected question. So who is she? She? A curious Naruto asked, tilting his head. Who do you believe? I'm talking about the girl you're madly in love with in the world, Seiko stated, eliciting a stuttered response from Naruto. I know because I know you. So tell me about her and everything else that has happened since you arrived in that planet. Giving up, Naruto smiled and said, Boy, do I have a lot to tell you. Do tell. To be continued.
That's it for this part, guys. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this video story, like, share, subscribe for more, and thank you all for having support and have a great day.